I've been running on no sleep. Been weeks since I see my sheets, but last time I did, I had to go deep. Yeah, I'm talking in between them cheeks. So why you always gotta get cold feet? Every time I try to make you mine, say why I always gotta catch the sniffles? Every time I go and hit your line, but really I'm goody, I'm fine. Really ain't got time to waste me no time. Who really needs them a peace of mind? When you find peace in them, peace in the grind. I want the whole thing and you want the whole thing. I had to make moves and then move like it's Soul Train. I move like it's cocaine.
Today I'm sitting here and we have Ajax Stacks. We're going to sit down with him and get to know him as an artist and on a personal level. So his listeners can, not everyone has access to you, so they can get to know you as far as, like I said, artist and personally. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. So at this moment, how old are you now?
Right now, I'm 32 years old. Most people don't believe it when I tell them. They be like, nah, man, you got to be like 25, 26 at the most. But nah, I'll be actually 33 in July. First day of Leo.
Gotcha. Is it people don't tend to believe it? Is it because of that energy that you bring to the stage? Like they just from the way that you rock the stage, they believe you got to be younger, or is it the music, or what tends to usually give them that what makes them question your age?
Honestly, it could be the energy. I definitely have energetic stage presence and all that, but I think it's mostly honestly the baby face. I hide it under a beard these days, but I think it's just having a baby face and actually looking young, because a lot of times it'll come from people who don't even know that I rap or have never even seen me perform. So I'm half black too, so they say black don't crack.
I feel you there, boss man. And just so some people who might not be familiar with your work, go ahead and let the people know where you hail from and what area you represent.
I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, aka Gun Rule, aka Stack Rapids. Everybody always asks, how far away is that from Detroit? Because that's what they know about Michigan. But it's on the other side of the state. I'm from West Michigan, but currently right now I'm down in Austin, Texas, putting on for the Cap City of Texas.
Okay. How long have you been at your craft?
I guess professionally, pursuing it is more than just a hobby. I'd say probably about 8 years now.
When is the earliest moment that you knew this is exactly what you wanted to be doing?
I think it kind of crept up on me, to be honest. A lot of people, in interviews like these and stuff, they'll ask me, how long have I wanted to be a rapper? How long I've seen myself doing stuff like this. And I always tell, off rip, I always tell people, it kind of just happened, I picked it up like as a hobby, taught myself how to record, did all this, and fell in love with it. But then I kind of looked at the past, in my life, just coming up, being in school. I remember in high school, I used to kind of make these rap voicemails, over popular instrumentals, and I make my own voicemail. So when you call and get my voicemail, it'd be like a little jingle rap. And I remember in high school, people would start calling me. I wouldn't know the numbers, and they would just call me and be like, I'd answer, be like, hello. They'd be like, oh, this is really awkward. This is so-and-so in your mad class, la, la, la. I heard you had a really cool voicemail. I was wondering if I could call you back and you not answer. I'd be like, yeah, nobody want to actually talk to me. They want to hear the voicemail. And then they started asking me to do their voicemails for them and stuff like that. And even at that time, I never in my mind was like, what, I want to be a rapper. It was just, for fun, because I love hip hop and it was just something cool to do. So I look back and see these type of things and I kind of reflect like, dang, maybe somewhere, deep consciously, this is what I wanted to do. I just didn't, bring it to life yet. So
at this time, how much would you say do you dedicate to your craft, like either on a weekly basis or a monthly basis? Like, do you set aside time to say like, hey, on Tuesday, I'm going to hit the studio, or is it more like a motivational urge? Does it come like, I've got to hit the studio right now. I've got this idea.
Yeah, that's a good question. Pretty much it's a passion, overwhelming passion. So it just depends on what else I got going on in life. Right now I work, I still work a 40-hour week. And when when I come home, I find myself, I don't even take my work clothes off these days. I just, go straight into whatever I got to do, whether it be there's a new song that I'm working on, a new beat that I found or get sent to me, whether it be a new video I got to promote. So basically, if I'm not doing anything else in life, I got a daughter too. She lives in Michigan still, so I don't get to see her as much. But on my come up still, years past, if I'm not with her, I'm not doing this. It's pretty much what I do 24/7 outside of those things. And a lot of times I incorporate those things. My daughter's got a song out. She's been in a couple of my music videos. So some of my parenting time, we do stuff like that. You can catch me at my day job writing shit or doing shit or being on, trying to, on my lunch breaks, handling little business, whatever meetings I got to do, or maybe it's an interview like this, so pretty much whenever I'm not doing anything else, I'm doing this rap shit 24/7.
Well, we completely understand that. Yeah. What would you say is your motivation or your inspiration on those days that you just don't feel like, like maybe you've got a lot going on in life, or maybe you might have a little bit of writer's block or anything like that. What in those times keep you motivated to keep it pushing?
To be honest, I play, many roles, especially in the stage of my career where I'm at. I'm not on, but, we definitely making a name for ourselves. We got plenty of work. And right now I'm my own manager. I do a lot of my own concepts. My passion within my passion is directing and producing music videos and stuff like that. So I also run a showcase competition called Rap for a Stack, which we've done all across the country. So pretty much if I have writer's block or I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I find motivation in all the other hustles. If I can't write something of my own, some new music, maybe I'll go through some of my old tracks and I'm like, this needs a music video. Let's start the storyboard for this, or let's start creating this, or, I got to get some flyers done for a show I got coming up. So let's hit up my graphic designer and work on this. So everything just kind of stays in motion. I kind of just flow on whatever workflow I got going on.
Yeah, it does sound like you're really hands-on in your career, and I can definitely see that taking you far. If you could go back with the knowledge that you have now to the beginning of your career and speak to a former self, are there some things that you would do different, or tell yourself, to invest more on this avenue, or things like that?
Most definitely. There's a few things. One of the main things that comes to mind, what years back, you starting out, I'm very structured and I'm very, not necessarily by the book, because it's art, you can be creative, but just on the way that you hustled, not only 5 years ago, it's completely different on the way you hustle in the industry, especially as an independent artist, you do now. I kind of started my career and like I said, I was very structured. I was very like, all right, we got to drop this. We got to do this album. Then we're going to have these singles in it. And then we're going to, yada, yada, not knowing that, hindsight, looking back, it's like, well, nowadays the industry is so wild, wild west. It's like, man, just drop content, just do this. You don't have to have necessarily a rhyme and reason to everything, with things going viral and this and that. It's almost like the more shots you shoot, you got to have good quality product. But as long as that's up to par, the more shots you take, the more chances you have of stuff going in. So I have catalogs still of projects that, weren't perfect at the time. So I didn't release them, or I didn't do this. And I got songs on songs on songs that never were released because, it didn't seem right or it didn't do this. When in reality, I probably should just let those fly. And who knows, if they hit, they don't hit. It's something out there for everybody. So I kind of learned that with the more experience that I have, is especially nowadays, like I said, the way things operate, it's like, just let your catalog fly, just let your moves fly. And if they hit, they hit. They don't, they don't. You never know what's going to be out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know that a lot of our listeners, as far as aspiring artists and things like that, could definitely take that kind of advice to heart. Looks like at this point, have you done any live performances? I know you were scheduled to perform at South by Southwest this year, but due to unforeseen circumstances, that it got canceled. How often are you performing, or how did you feel after your first live performance?
Yeah, I've been performing for a long time. It's one of the reasons that I moved to Austin, Texas. They're known as the live music capital of the world. So you definitely kind of got to have certain things under your belt to be able to move to a city like this. And even if you don't, it's a great place to pick up those things. So yeah, I've been performing pretty much all, my whole professional seeking career. Like you said, I was a South by Southwest artist this year, official artist this year. It was actually my second time. So luckily, I got to experience it in its fullness last year. And like you said, it got canceled this year, unfortunately. But I've done a bunch of things in my home state in Michigan, from Party in the Park. I've opened up for names, anywhere from T.I. to Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, just a bunch of come up artists to Futuristic, Ishtar, the list goes on. So definitely is something that I focus on is live performances and doing shows. We live in a digital era, so it's easy to hop online, spread your music, send links and do all that. But I think it's still very important to, and if not even more important these days because of that, to still hit people in a tangible way. Live performance is a great way to do that.
Gotcha. And I know your fans certainly appreciate that, being able to come out and actually feel you and feel your energy and watch you perform live. Because like you said, we do live in a digital age nowadays. And I do feel like it's definitely easy for artists to lose that personal touch as far as interacting with their fan base because there's so much going on. But that's what we're trying to give that personal feel here with these kind of interviews here. So let's go back to your first live performance. How do you remember how you felt before? Do you remember how you felt during? And how did you feel right after that first performance?
Yeah, I definitely remember. Obviously it's a pivotal moment in artist careers, their first performance. I remember mine was in Grand Rapids, naturally, my hometown, in a place called Billy's Lounge. It's in Easttown on the bricks, we call it, because the street's made of all brick. And I used to record myself. I would teach myself how to write and record and stuff in my basement and all that. That's kind of how I was doing my projects at the time when I first started out. And there was a more popular local group from the city, and they used to come over. There's three of them. They used to come over. Shout out Convotronics. They used to come over and record their scratch tracks because, I didn't have like the professional studio, but I definitely had enough where if you had ideas, you wanted to get a rough draft of the song, you wanted to, rehearse it or whatever, it was good enough quality where, it served that purpose. So they used to come over and record their scratch tracks. And, on the low, I was, working on my music too. I haven't really, marketed myself or put myself out there, but they kind of picked up on it. I would show them. And then they, sooner than later, they had a release show and they're like, yo, you want to open up for us, yada, yada. So that was how I got my first opportunity. I never did any open mics. I never did anything like that. It was pretty much a local packed out release show for one of the, bigger names in the city, followed by some other bigger names in the city. And they kind of just threw me to open up the show. So it's kind of like just getting pushed in the pool type of thing and, just learning how to swim that way. I remember, of course, I was anxious, a little nervous and stuff, but I maybe rehearsed just 5 times a day, every day for like a whole month, so I was ready for it. I knew I was ready for it. Hopped on the stage, did my thing. I'm sure there was some constructive criticism to be given, but I think I really held it down while I was performing. I kind of related it to like, if you ever been into like a fight or anything like that, it's like, it's very energetic. You're in the zone, and it happens so quick. And, if you sit there for 15, 20 minutes, like, that seems forever. But when you're in something like that, it's like, it seems like it goes by, within like a minute or two. And you're like, damn, I killed my 15, 20 minute set already. Dope. Cool. So it kind of was that feeling during performance. And then afterwards, it was just dope. I had all my friends and family there. Those are the roles that they kind of that support you when you're first starting out. You don't maybe have a lot of fans, but you have your friends, you have your family, you have stuff like that. So it's cool if they can come out and support you. And I remember talking to one of my OGs, rappers there. And, I went up to him and tried to get some feedback from him. Hey, how'd you like it? La, la, la. And I told him, it was my first show ever. He was like, oh, dang, that was your first show ever? Like you couldn't tell that was your first time being on stage. So that really gave me the confidence boost and really helped me, improve my craft and feel that much more confident every other time I would hop on stage after that.
Gotcha. Okay, so and still talking about that first time there, did everything go as expected, or is there anything now because you're further on in the career, you know what to expect and how a show should flow? Was there anything that you wish that might have occurred just a little bit differently, or would you relive the same experience just exactly how it was, nothing different?
Honestly, it was so long ago and I've done so many shows since then. There's nothing that really sticks out where I was like, man, I wish I would have did this different, or I wish it would have changed up, or I thought it was going to be like this, but it was like that. But performing so much and being so experienced in it now, I would almost put money on it for sure. I'm sure that there was something that, at the time that I was like, man, I could have did this, or dang, I had, it could be a positive thing too. It could have been like, man, I thought for sure I was going to mess this up or do this, but this worked out perfectly, type thing, or it worked out better than I imagined. So just knowing how live shows go and performances go, I'm sure there's definitely something. But at this point, there's nothing really that really sticks out that I was like, nah, this was embarrassing, or, oh, this was, amazing.
Well, we definitely agree that you had that first experience, and that everything seems like it was successful from there, and it seems like it still keeps going. So let's talk about your career. Everyone aspires to be the greatest of all time at their craft, if they're serious. Who are some people that you believe influence your particular style of delivery?
That inspired my style and delivery. I mean, I started like right before I started rapping and trying it out myself and picking up it as a hobby or just seeing if it was something I liked. I listened to a lot of the come up artists at the time. Definitely on some Michigan shit, Big Sean. And then, J. Cole and even the early Drake and all that, all those artists, Kendrick Lamar, Wale, all those artists that are, doing their thing and kind of top tier now. I think that come up era with those artists in that group, maybe the same 3, 4, 5 years really inspired me to pick up the pen and pick it up as a hobby. And then which obviously took it off to something else different. Those were definitely the artists and the sounds that was going on that I listened to. But just as a hip hop fan, I got an older sister. She's maybe 5 years older than me. So, when I'm in like middle school or whatever, and I'm coming to the age where I can finally stay home by myself for a couple hours or this or that. And I remember I would sneak down. She'd have a room in the basement. I'd sneak down there. She'd have like the Little Kim posters, her cock eagle on the wall and stuff. And I'd go sneak down there, check those out. I'd put in the little VHS of Belly, the movie Belly, and start watching, a couple scenes of that while I could sneak it in. And I listen to the music. It'd be, on some Wu-Tang, some Fugees, some Busta Rhymes type of stuff. I remember Woo-Ha was like the first song that I had ever like memorized in my head or knew the chorus at least at the time type of thing. So that's how I kind of was influenced in just the hip hop culture period. But those other artists that I named, those are probably what influenced me to actually start, doing it myself.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are going to relate to that, man. If you could do a collab with any artist, dead or alive, who would be on the track?
Man, that's a hard one. There's so many dope artists. I can pick out my favorite artists that I listen to right now. I could pick, a bunch of OG legends that have passed away. When it comes to collaborating, one thing that kind of comes to mind that I wanted to do is definitely I'm not a huge Logic fan, so I don't want the listeners of the view to kind of get to thinking that like, oh, I'm a Logic fanatic. He's dope, I mess with him, but for whatever reason, I've always wanted to do a collaboration with Logic, just on being and had the I don't know, the name of the song, but it would be something about the concept of being half white, being half black, looking white, and all of the misconceptions and the lifestyles and experiences that you kind of go through. I call it light bright, being a light bright, biracial person. So I think that would be really dope to kind of tap into that, the new minority or something like that.
Our final 2 questions here. One, if your life was a movie or a book, what would the title have to be?
So I just the first things that come to mind are pretty much, my album names and stuff like that. Or even slogans that I have. So I actually just dropped the album a couple weeks ago, actually a week ago today. It's called Remembering Our Future. Something like that would be dope. I got a project that I had worked on when I spoke earlier, one of them that never really surfaced, but I had a cool concept to it. It was called The New Minority. And it's pretty much about, like I said, being biracial and doing all that, how there's so many, that's the way the population is eventually going to end up. Everybody's going to be mixed. Everybody's going to, be biracial and whatnot. And there's so many people that have that in common. It's almost like forming its own race. So that's what I say when there's a new minority. So I think that would be pretty dope. Of course, Stack Rapids comes to mind because I'm always rapping about my hometown. I'm always putting on my city that way. So if you were to make a movie about my life, it would definitely be based in that. So that would be a dope title. And then also last one, I have a saying that we do with my high rise crew. It's always hungry, never thirsty. And that motto is literally just, you work for it, but you don't force it. You want to be hungry for it, but you don't want to be thirsty for it. So any of those titles I think would pop off and be dope.
Gotcha. All right. And our last here, if in the future we asked to interview you again, would you be willing to come back on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like those are the best type of interviews is where, as an artist or anybody really, where you do an interview and you get your perspective in that time, in that place in your life. And then, whether it be a month, a year, a handful of years down the road, you do it again and you can always compare and contrast. So I think that's real dope for the listeners. I think that's real dope for the people involved in the interview and everything too. Kind of brings things full circle.
Well, we definitely wish you much luck. It was definitely a learning experience getting to know you, Ajax Stacks. And we hope that we wish you much success on everything that you hope to launch in the next 5 years. We hope to extend your audience and that your audience does get to hear this, gets to know you. I feel like they were here sitting with us as well. We're going to, like always, we're going to go ahead and leave you with the track by Ajax so you can get familiar with his work. And if these artists, if these listeners want to add you more to their library or even come out and see you live, is there any performances that you have coming up or are you streaming on all platforms? How can they get more of Ajax?
Yeah, most definitely. So obviously right now, depending on when they're listening to this or coming back to it, we amongst the coronavirus right now. So this is probably the first time I made a post about it recently. This is probably the first time in years of my career where I don't have any shows on the book. Nothing, is marked in. Everything's up in the air right now. So it's definitely hectic and that goes for any artist, that's top tier to, grinding, independently, locally or whatever. Everything is shut down. So currently they cannot check me out. We actually I was on a tour support for one of my homies, like you said, South by Southwest, all that stuff got deaded. So right now we definitely streaming. Like I said, I dropped an album recently called Remembering Our Future. I got a couple more in my catalog that people can look up. And like you said, we on all streaming platforms. We got a bunch of music videos on YouTube. So the best bet, I'm on Instagram, Snapchat, not so much Snapchat, but Instagram, Facebook, all that type of stuff. And everything is Ajax Stacks. So that's AJAX. And then Stacks, how you spell it, STACKS. So you can literally type that stuff in any of those platforms. I'm a pretty good marketer, so you'll definitely be able to find what you're looking for.
All right, that's been our time, Ajax. And thanks again, man, for having us. And we wish you much success, bro. Take care.
All right, thanks for having me.
This concludes our interview with Ajax Stacks. As always, we're going to go ahead and leave you with a selection from his portfolio. He has left us with More to Life, which is the track we're getting ready to play. We're going to look out for this track on all major platforms. Thank you again for tuning in. God bless.
Yeah. There's gotta be more to life than just blowing this drove, fucking these hoes. There's gotta be more to life than just kicking these flows, slapping these shows. There's gotta be more to life than just getting it lit, talking that shit. Oh wait, that's it, I think that there is. So I'ma pop out and go see about this. There's gotta be more to life than just trips to the keys, Airbnbs. There's gotta be more to life than just rocking the steeds, these by the threes. There's gotta be more to life than just hop on the flight, hit it poppin' the night. You know homie, I think that you right. I might as well go out and see what it's like. I'ma go rep for my city. Probably put on for yours too. But to be honest, homie, I miss taking my little daughter to school. See, the next thing you know it, she driving herself. Next thing you know it, I'm losing my health. Next thing you know it, my change, I just blow it, and they just gon' throw it all back on the shelf. And that's when I started prioritizing. Had to change up, started organizing. Got my bars up, the flow with Verizon. Leave them starstruck, I'm so high rising. But I still get it out the river though. That stack rappers, if you didn't know. Said you ass backwards if you didn't though. We got mad rappers that should really blow. Why you think I'm dropping videos? Why you think I'm curving pretty hoes? They heard I'm black and white like dominoes. They want a piece of this like dominoes. Told all my peoples it's vominos. Told all my haters it's adios. You would think they seen a ghost, how I rose through, still doing the most. But there's gotta be more to life than just blowing this stroll, fucking these hoes. There's gotta be more to life than just kicking these flows, slapping these shows. There's gotta be more to life than just getting it lit, talking that shit. Oh wait, that's it, I think that there is. So I'ma pop out and go see about this. There's gotta be more to life than just trips to the keys, Airbnbs. There's gotta be more to life than just rocking the steeds, fees by the threes. There's gotta be more to life than just grabbing the flight, get it popping tonight. You know what, homie, I think that you right. I might as well go out and see what it's like. Yeah. Yeah.